Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasul al-Kareem. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Re-Takaful online course. And today's discussion is a continuation of the previous discussion whereby we cover the most popular terms used in Takaful. And today we carry on with the item number 6, as just to remember and to recap, we are following the terms according to the alphabetical order. And number 6 is the gharar. Gharar is also known as uncertainty, and a gharar basically is one of the prohibitions when it comes to takaful. And of course, when we talk about the prohibitions of takaful, we will come back again in details to describe and discuss the gharar. And why gharar is important. Gharar is one of the very important aspects when it comes to the prohibition is takaful. And the reason being is that the ground that the insurance, conventional insurance, is not allowed and prohibited by the Sharia scholars is that it is based and built upon an exchange contract whereby the gharar and the uncertainty is not tolerated. So which means that the reason for the prohibitions of the conventional insurance is the existence of gharar. So when the gharar is there, so it could not be tolerated and will have an impact on the validity of the entire contract whereby the gharar is not present in the takaful. We'll explain more details, of course, when it comes to that point whereby we're talking about the exchange contract and the voluntary contract. Gharar as gharar does exist in takaful. We can't say it doesn't exist, but the reason for its tolerance because it is based on tabarra contract, and it is and the same gharar does exist in the conventional insurance, but it is not tolerated because it is built upon an exchange contract, which means that the gharar is not tolerated in exchange contract where the conventional insurance is built upon, but it is tolerated in tabarra contract where the takaful operator or where the takaful concept is built upon. That's basically the distinctions of this point. But again, as I mentioned, we will have a coming session when we talk about the prohibitions whereby we will zoom and dive more with some relevant example on the uncertainty. But as of now, we just keep it as a term and provide a high-level description. So again, gharar is a kind of uncertainty, is a kind of ignorance, is a kind of lack of information about something that have an impact on the contract, which turn it into invalid contract from a Sharia standpoint. And in order to validate that contract, basically the certainty or the uncertainty or the gharar or the ignorance should be removed. That's why this kind of gharar is not tolerated also in Islamic banking, and the reason being is that Islamic banking is built upon exchange contract like buying and selling. This is why you have to know what you are buying, you have to know what you are selling, and all the specification and descriptions should be provided in order to validate the contract. So the lack of information will may have an impact on the contract. Why? Because of the existence of gharar. So it is an element which is prohibited and not tolerated in exchange contract, and we will give more details in the coming session as well. The following term is the word halal or lawful or permissible. It is actually one of the 5 Sharia ruling. We have the wajib or the obligations, we have the mandub or the recommendation, and we have the permissibility, which is the mubah, and we have the makruh, which is the dislike, and we have the prohibitions, which is the haram. So here lawful or permissible or halal means permissibility, which is one of the 5 ruling, which is in the middle, meaning it has the neutral positions. No request to do, not request to leave. So the options is granted to you to act as you wish, to act as you want, because there is no recommendation to do it, and there is no recommendation to avoid it. So it is permissible, it is jaiz, it is halal, meaning it is allowed by the lawgiver, it is allowed by the Sharia to use it if something to do, or to consume it, or to eat it, or to drink it, and so on and so forth. We say this is a permissible drink, you can drink it. This is a permissible food, you can eat it. This is a permissible entertainment you can enjoy. This is a permissible traveling, and so on and so forth. Meaning there is no restrictions, there is no prohibitions. Is this coverage permissible? Yes, it is permissible. Can the Takaful operators cover this risk? Yes, it is permissible to cover. So the Takaful provider can provide the coverage and can provide a specific policy on that specific risk. So permissibility again is the mubah, is the halal, is the jaiz, is something lawful by Sharia. Is up to the person to do it or not to do it, because it is a free from command, it is a free from obligations, and also it is a free from any kind of reward. If you do it, you will not be rewarded. If you don't do it, you will not be rewarded. Only the wajib and the mandub you will be rewarded in case you do it, and the haram and the makruh you will be rewarded if you don't do it. But as far as the halal, permissible, lawful, basically it is an option granted, and it is free from any command obligations from the lawgiver. Of course, if you put some intentions in your actions, you may get some reward, and you shift basically the mubah into something recommended, that you may generate some reward based on that kind of intention. So this is on the halal. The following term, which is the term number 8, is the haram, or it is unlawful, or it is forbidden. It's something that you cannot do. It's something that you have to avoid because the lawgiver doesn't allow you to do it, doesn't allow you to drink it if it is a drink, doesn't allow you to eat it if it is a food, doesn't allow it to do it, and you are requested to leave it, avoid it, and keep distance and keep away from doing. It is a kind of communication from the lawgiver. It is a kind of command from the lawgiver to avoid something. Like, for example, it is haram to do gambling, it is haram to drink alcohol, it is haram to eat with something which is not halal, and so on and so forth. Why? If you do it, you'll be compromising on the command of God, and as a result of that, you will be punished by the lawgiver, meaning that crossing or violating the commands of God in doing something which is not allowed to do will generate or will result a kind of punishments in this world or in the hereafter. And if you leave it as a result of compliance with the lawgiver, you will be rewarded as well by the lawgiver. But haram again is a kind of restriction, it is a kind of prohibitions, it's a kind of red lines, is a kind of things that you should avoid. Like, for example, we have the in Islamic finance, we have riba or interest. It is prohibited, it is haram, so we shouldn't do it. We have the gambling as a part of the gaming, so we shouldn't do it because it's prohibited. We cannot do buy and sell pork, we cannot buy and sell alcohol, and so on and so forth. Why? Because it is haram, which means it is prohibited. We have to comply with the lawgiver, with commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by leaving those prohibitions, because there are specific restrictions from the lawgiver to avoid it. So before that, the halal or the permissible, it's up to you to do or not to do, but this haram, it is basically a must to avoid. You have to avoid and keep yourself away from it. The term number 9 is basically the Heba. The Heba or the gift. It is a kind of voluntary donations by the donor to someone without any kind of compensations requested. For example, your friend, you give him a gift like a pen, you give him a gift like a mobile, you give him a gift as a book. So it's a kind of donation, it's a kind of a gift. it's a kind of asset or valuable things given to other one in the form of donations without any kind of monetary value in return, meaning you don't get any kind of financial reward, any kind of consideration. Because if I give you the book and you give me the money, it becomes sales, right? If you give them the book but you don't ownership, you keep it, but you keep paying me something, so it becomes leasing, a lease. But here we are talking about transfer of ownership of a specific asset through donations, which is a voluntary gift, without any consideration. So you don't need to give me money. You just keep the gift as a kind of contributions from my side. It could be, as I mentioned, a pen, it could be a book, it could be a mobile, it could be a house, it could be a car, any kind of thing. Now the impact of the gift is that it will shift the ownership from the donor to the donee, from the donor to the recipient. So when you give a book, so the ownership of the book will be shifted from my side, who is the first owner, to the recipient, who is the ultimate recipient, who is the ultimate owner of the book. So it will contribute to the transfer of ownership of the asset, but without any kind of consideration, meaning you take the book, you claim ownership of the book without any kind of payment. This is what we call it a Heba or a gift. The item number 10 is basically Ibra, or rebate, or a waiver of debt. And this one is when the person basically withdraw the right to collect payments from a borrower. Ibra or rebate is a kind of giving up your rights, is a kind of waiver to kind of debt. So if someone is a debtor, then the creditor waive or provide the Ibra or waive part of his rights, 100% the entire debt, of 50%, half of it, or part of it. This kind of action, we call it rebate, we call it waiver, we call it also a kind of tanazul. It is a right, basically, that could be exercised if you want to. So the creditor may exercise a kind of rebate, it may exercise a kind of a waiver, may exercise a kind of tanazul for the interest of the borrower. You can waive the entire debt 100%, 50% of it, or part of it. So this kind of actions, we call it a waiver. This is some of the terms of the Takaful, and we will cover, inshallah, the remaining in the coming session. With that, thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.